Hi, this is, of course, I'm Joel with DataWorks. We're the home of Launch Literacy and Linked Literacy. I'd like to introduce you first of all to Mr. John Hollingsworth there. Say hello to the audience there, John.
Okay, I see everybody.
What we're doing today is we're having a review of the EL program, focusing on expanding, bridging fourth graders through eighth grade. And your team's sort of putting together some ideas on how that's going to look like. And our goal is just to provide some ideas as you start going through this. And then I'm thinking right before school starts, we do another one where we really start focusing on delivery. But John, I would really appreciate if we did talk a little bit about delivery just to give teachers some ideas.
Okay, and what levels are most of your students?
We have a lot in expanding and some in bridging.
John, now if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Rodriguez, we had a proportion of long-term English learners as well, correct?
Right, we could consider most of these students to be LTELs, yes.
And we actually, I guess there's kind of three programs all mixed together. Launch to Literacy is the lower level, and we use letters, A, B, C, D, E, F. We got away from emerging, beginning to emerge, so we just put letters. So the first three are down here, the next three here. And Edusarius are just our online lessons with 1,500 lessons. So I'm going to push the link to literacy. Wait, let me ask you something. Your students are not at the level where they need to learn letters and letter sounds, are they? I'm sure they're beyond that.
Yes, they are decoding, so they're beyond that.
Yeah, we're beyond the alphabet, the names of the letter phonics and phonemic awareness and stuff. That's really what's down here. Okay, so I think we'll start up with the link to literacy.
So a great rule of thumb is launch literacy. It would be for your newcomers. It is learning to read, whereas linked literacy is going to be reading to learn.
Okay, so now the one thing you need to think about is the placement. And we did our placement a little bit differently. I hope the screen is big enough. You probably know Lexile levels, like reading levels. So we're really leveling students by their reading levels. So if you're all the way down at K, where you need to learn the letters and letter sounds, you should be starting down at A. If you're reading at the second or third grade level, you could be at C. If you're at the fourth and fifth grade level, you could be D, and then on up to E and F. We found reading levels better than our EL levels because EL level has a listening and speaking component. And what we're really working on is reading fluency, mostly is the reading part of it. And of course, vocabulary too. Now, are your students going to re-level, or you're going to, during the dedicated time, or they can try to all be taught in the same classroom?
We still haven't determined the groupings, but we would like to group by proficiency, but we're still working on that plan.
Well, this is really the way to do. Grade level instruction should be by the grade level. All fifth graders should get fifth grade content. ELD really should be by their EL levels. So you might have a level D with a combination of students from different grade levels, or a level C with different grade levels. So be ready to do that. And I'll just tell you one big hint now, be ready to re-level them. If you go a week or two and some kids are really struggling, they need to move down one. If it's just too easy, they need to move up. All right, so let me just give you a couple lessons, and let's look how it's set up. We have the quarters in here, and then one more: informative, narrative, persuasive. I hope you can read the text types. Do you remember the push now on Common Core is informational text? And we figure the students get a lot of narratives in their regular classroom, so we're trying to focus more on informational and expository text. And you know, the ELs, what they really need is academic language. That usually one of their weakest points is academic language, and not words in a story, but like working with informational text. So basically, you just kind of click what week you're on. So if you're on week 1, you can just click week 1, and you can click the day of the week and teach what you're going to do. So if you look at this one, this first one on verb tenses, we're in level D now. And we actually have 2 days to teach the lesson. We found it's too hard to get through the whole lesson in a short time. So you've got 2 days to teach the verb tenses. Then you have compound words. So you've got 2 days to teach that. Now I'm going to click to the next week. And then we're teaching a third lesson in here. Now, day 8, we don't have just teaching every day, as we're going to do the independent practice for the first 2 lessons we did. And we teach another lesson. And then we do periodic review. I think if you know the brain research, you should do something the second day, a week later, and a couple of weeks later. So we've built in periodic review. It just one time in the classroom, I think all of you know it's not enough. And sometimes you have a test like 30 days out and the kids say, I've never taught this. It's because they've kind of forgotten. We don't have periodic review. So we built in, it's kind of spaced out, periodic review and independent practice. We have quizzes. You can download the PDF like this. So the quizzes are built in, you can download it and print them, and the kids can fill these out. There's actually listening parts where you read something, or you read as a teacher, they listen and have to come up with answers for that.
Right. Don't forget, John, our quizzes also have a digital link as well that you would be able to send your students. Let me ask this question. Are you using some sort of like, for the new school year coming up, teachers, are we using some sort of like Google Classroom? Are we kind of anticipating to be in the class and doing some remote teaching? What's sort of the plan you have put together for that or thinking about?
Our platform would be Google Classroom in grades 4 through 8. And in terms of whether they're physically present or just virtually present, it may be a mix, and that's still to be clarified.
Teachers, right off the bat, I have to tell you, for this link program by August 1st, everything will be in a writable PDF format. So that means when it's time to do classroom assignments, you're going to be able to make a copy and push out to your students. So we're going to be able to help with that. Number two, when it's time for quizzes and or assessments, we're going to be able to help because the link will go straight to your, once again, pushed out to your students. And when they reply back with the quiz or assessment, you'll be able to see it in your email. John, keep going.
So if you click these are online, and you can click the answers, and you put the teacher email in there, and it'll email it back to you. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll see the pacing calendar goes just like that. It mixes between lessons, periodic review, and other things. Independent practice, there's quizzes and stuff. We have some flashcards also. Homophones, I think I was thinking of this one.
Yep.
So we've got the two MALE and MAIL. We have a definition and a sentence. And then we give the students, get ready, get your whiteboard ready. Did you see the blank today? And you're going to write MAIL or MAIL on your whiteboard and then hold up and show me. So this goes fairly fast, and we do another one. Now for EL, of course, I would read the whole sentence. We would read all of this. We would read this to practice reading. And then we would do the next one and hold up.
The reason we've been bringing up flashcards is that there's a lot of muscle memory that has to be developed when doing these Google Meet or Zoom meetings with your students. One of the fastest ways that we've sort of expressed is by using the flashcards. John, can you tell me how this is paced out here, the screen in front of us?
Well, if you actually look at this, you see these are verbs in this one. This is kind of like language and vocabulary, compound words, context clues, multiple meaning words, synonyms. So this is language verbs, and this is vocabulary, and then this is reading comprehension. Let me just show you one, because I want to show a little bit about teaching. You may have seen when I showed the pacing calendar, there was this poster in there. So these are our engagement rules for the classroom. The teacher pre-pronounces words. Tracked reading means you read first, they read afterwards. Gestures to convey meaning and help remember. We're going to pair share every question with a sentence starter. The character trait is, the verb tense is, and we can use whiteboards for answers to see everybody. An attention signal, eyes front, back straight, or 1, 2, eyes on you, is to get everybody back after the pair shares. Okay, so let's watch what this looks like. Students, we have a new word here. This word is determine. Listen carefully, determine. Let's all say the word together. Ready, read. Determine. One more time, ready? Determine. Now we had a definition down here. A little one means a definition. Determine means to figure out. So for example, I can determine your grade by looking at the quizzes and the tests. I can determine how much money I have by looking in my wallet. So if I say determine, let's see if you can say figure out. If I say figure out, you're going to say determine. Are you ready? Okay, determine.
Figure out.
Okay, so I'm saying cross-reference the brain. We chanted a few times. I can do a checking for understanding here. Students, can you tell me what determine means? I want you to say determine means, or use determine in your own sentence. So think about it for a minute. I'm going to call for somebody. Let's see. Clara, are you there? Can you tell me what determine means, or use it in your own sentence?
I need to determine what time I'm going to serve dinner tonight.
Good. You're going to determine or figure out what time you're going to do it. Okay, so one of the rules as a timeout is to teach academic vocabulary, determine, correspond, separate, distinguish. This is a passage is another good example, excerpt, narrative work. So we've got a few words. We have, what do we say, Joel? 2 to 7 words kind of flagged in the lesson because we're trying to advance academic at the same time. Okay, so I just taught that one word that happened to be in there. This is another big word. Can you say it after me? Multiple meaning. Your turn.
Multiple meaning.
Okay, I want your eyes to follow along. I'm going to read and you're going to read after me. We will determine the meaning of multiple meaning words. Okay, class, read. We will determine the meaning of multiple meaning words. Now, I know you don't have partners, but let's pretend we have a partner. Remote learning will be different, but if we're doing a classroom. So I want the A partners. I want you to turn and read the objective to the B partners. Okay, A, your turn. Read. We will
determine the meaning of multiple meaning words.
Okay, now I want the B partner to read. Go ahead, B, read. We will
determine the meaning of multiple meaning words.
Okay, very good. So now I want you to think about the amount of listening and speaking we've done so far. We pronounced determine. I gave the vocabulary. We did multiple meaning just to practice saying it. I read it first. You read it after me. You read it to your partners, and we're not even done yet. I'm going to ask someone to read me the learning objective. I'm not asking you what a multiple meaning word is. I'm saying, can you read the words in the learning objective? So I've got Joel. Joel, can you read the learning objective back for the class? We will.
I didn't see you pull out your popsicle sticks for random
I did.
selection.
Right here.
Multiple
Joel,
selection will determine the meaning of multiple meaning words.
Okay, now let's say Joel is more something. He doesn't quite know it. So Joel, I've called you, but can you read that to me? We will determine
determine
yeah, men, like men and women. Determine, can you say it one more time?
Determine
the meaning of multiple meaning words.
The meaning of multiple meaning words.
Okay, this is the scaffolding. It's kind of like an echo read, but we're not going to let anybody get out of it. We're going to do word for word. Oh, by the way, determine is a classic one. Kids use phonics. They try to say mine, M-I-N-E, and it's actually like men and women. So I use that strategy. Use a word you already know. Kids just like men. I could have taught it that way. Men, like men and women. Men determine. Can we all say that now? Ready? Read. Determine.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of EL is practices like techniques. I'm kind of giving our training in an ad-lib way, but there's like 4 or 5 ways to tell how to pronounce stuff. Okay. And the phonics rules not working is where a lot of kids mispronounce. And then using a sound you already know. Okay. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to put the poster up here. I don't know if you can read it from that distance, but let's have you talk among yourselves. Well, you can't really talk to each other, but think for a minute. What type of strategy did you see me just use in one sentence? Okay, and be ready to tell me something.
Yes, John. I was going to say, let's go ahead and type our responses in chat. Let's go to
let's practice
our response
how we would do it online.
Yes, just like you would with your 8th graders and your 7th graders and your 6th graders. Let's go ahead and type one sentence. And John, ask that question one more time, please.
Okay, the question is, name some of the strategies you saw. Chat is usable if you're doing remote learning, and sometimes the students can just type their answers in.
Mm-hmm. I can read it for you as well. Pronounce with me, pair share, read with me, track with me. People are really liking pair share. I think that's a good one. John, let's talk about pair share for a minute. What can you say about how many times we can try to practice that new academic or content language?
But I think what you want to do is, let's go back to where I just was a second. I read the objective. We read it chorally. You pair shared A partner, B partner. That's 2 more times. I called one person, but I could have called 3 people. So we're up to what? 7 times we've said that. And the kids need that repetition. They need to say the new words. And Joel, we've been in so many classrooms. The teachers tend to say, this is what we're going to do today. They don't even read it. They just point to it because they really don't know how to present an objective. Presenting an objective is what?
John, you know what? Maybe we should take just one moment here, because what's that one thing you're always saying about long-term English learners and how they kind of, I don't want to say trick you, but they kind of fool you sometimes.
Okay, they fool you because their conversation is good enough. Their conversation. whether our week is in reading and in academic vocabulary. That's why I'm focusing these words: determine, multiple meaning. We're going to start using these words during the lesson. I had an EL student say they couldn't answer a question on the state test because he didn't know what the word passage meant. I said, wait a minute, we should have been using that all year long. Look in the passage, look in the excerpt. Don't use the word story anymore, ever again. Use some more like academic and content vocabulary. Okay. All right, so this was just one page. Now, I think if we saw a few minutes ago when I was looking at the curriculum here, do you see day number 1? Do you see the poster right there? That's the poster I'm using right now. So your first thing in the classroom should be to teach the kids how to do this. If you're in the classroom, get a whiteboard, write your name, turn to your partner. Hello, my name is. Write your favorite color. I want a complete sentence. My favorite color is. Okay, day of the week, today is. Turn to your partner, today is. Practice holding up the whiteboard. We're gonna use chin it. I know you can't read it right down here, but the little command, we're gonna all lift together. All right, you're gonna, wherever the teacher walks, you're going to do. And then the complete sentence, when I say write your favorite color, you're not just gonna say blue, you're gonna say, my favorite color is blue, okay? So this is just stuff to teach kids. You could spend the first part of a period just teaching this and get an attention signal, eyes front, back straight, 1, 2 eyes on you, class, class, yes, yes, and train everyone. I used to say, turn to your partner and tell your partner what you did over the weekend or over the summer. But when you hear me say eyes front, you stop in the middle of the sentence, look right at me, say back straight, and be ready to go, zip, ready to, learning position. All right, so, and it really helps the classroom management, by the way. You want the kids to talk during the pair share, but you want them to stop, you know, when it's your turn to talk. Okay.
John and Joel, I have a comment. So our team is made up of people who have experience teaching English learners. Everybody here has taught ELD previously. I think maybe we're more curious in the structure of the scope and sequence of the curriculum. And teachers, please add in whatever you may be interested in.
Yeah, let's go start putting questions in chat as well. As you're getting your questions here, let's go ahead and do those in questions there. All right. And John, if you want to pull out the scope and sequence.
Well, here's the scope and sequence.
Yeah. No, they already have access to it.
So these are some reading comprehension informational texts. Main purpose, restate details, interpret diagrams, compare and contrast text structure, fact and opinion, persuasive techniques, use persuasive, draw inferences from text structure of a narrative, determine characterization. So here's the days we teach it. There's the independent practice. There's periodic review 1 and the periodic review, the second periodic review coming over here. Okay. So in the vocabulary, we've got compound words, context clues, multiple meaning words, synonyms, time signal, time words, spatial, like compare and contrast words, thesaurus, prefixes, suffixes again, literal, non-literal meaning, language choice, ideas using models, noun phrases, adverb phrases, combined sentences, comparative and superlative adverbs, progressive verb tense, combined clauses.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to, that's fine. Let's go ahead and go to the alignment guide. All right, guys, this is probably where we should spend some of the time at. So what we've done is we grabbed the California State Standards and we took in the time to show you where we have them paced out in the program, and we're supporting emerging, expanding, and bridging. Now, the reason why we did this and the reason why it's going to make a lot of sense to you is that the ELD lessons cannot be so hard that the kids are checking out, and not so easy that the kids are checking out. It gets a little bit better than this. Not only are we doing that, but since we have the time to have a paced out program, we are able to put in the periodic reviews to support that, right? What's that one saying? You'll never have to study a day in your life. All you have to do is read your notebook, you know, 1 day, 7 days, 2 weeks, and 30 days, right? Go down a little bit, John. And this is going to answer a person's question in chat there I just saw. We can actually see how we have the lessons linked, if it's embedded or whatnot. But
right,
if you're able to identify, if you don't want to use the pacing program, that's fine. A lot of our teachers sort of like are going directly to support where their students are at. Let's go ahead and go down one more, John.
Yeah, I think we should call Sylvia in too. And let
Oh,
her
that's a
add
good
little
idea. So ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Dr. Sylvia Barra.
Okay.
Hi, Sylvia.
Yes.
Dr. Sylvia Barra is the person who put together this program. Believe it or not, she is not a native speaker, which makes her probably one of the best people to put together a program like this. Sylvia, can you talk a little bit about the ELD standards and how we note them in each lesson, and then how we're addressing emerging, expanding, and bridging? These are experienced EL teachers, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
I'm going to open up our EduSeries, and then we're going to pull up the learning objectives for ELD. Okay, we took all the ELD standards and we deconstructed them, meaning that we came up with the learning objectives. So if I open up grade number 4, and if I go to the first part here, if you take a look at this one, the one in blue is the standard. Then we wrote learning objectives, and then we wrote down the emerging, the expanding, and the bridging. And you can find all of this. You can find those in our EduSeries website. So that's what we did to begin with, just to make sure that we were going to have really good alignment. This is the standard alignment guide. Mm-hmm. We put in the lessons for you at the different levels. So if I take a look at here, we have persuasion here. And if we were to open that up, that's the emerging. And we recommend that you use that with the students who are reading at the 4th and 5th grade level. So if you open up all those lessons, we started out with phrases that were very simple for students. Again, the kids need to be reading between the 4th grade and 5th grade. If your students are in the 12th grade, but they're reading at the 4th and 5th grade level, this is their lesson. Many times teachers said, oh no, I'm going to teach them 12th grade level work. You cannot do it because of the language issues. So this is the one that will tell you to give it to the students who are reading between the 4th and 5th grade level. So make sure that you place the students by their reading level, because that's going to be the best way to teach them and to advance them to the next grade level. Because what we see in the classroom is some of the lessons are very high for students and they cannot really even read anything. So they're really not making any progress. But if they're making progress, you can definitely move them to the next level, because that's the way the lessons are created. And you only have 45 minutes, so you're not going to be able to handle 3 or 4 different levels. So the best way that you can do is put them by reading level, and then you can advance them faster. I don't know if you can do that in your site. Do you put them by grade level, or do you put them by their reading levels?
We're going to aim to work in proficiency groupings, but we haven't finalized the groupings yet. We haven't finalized the model of instruction yet.
Right,
but,
Sylvia, remember, this is the team that's putting together their plan still, but it's definitely designated. And we also have a large population of long-term English learners, Sylvia. Now, we did address that a little bit, though.
Yes.
Is there anything that you kind of wanted to bring up in support of our long-term English learners from a different perspective?
Well, what happens is that many times the students are actually floundering in the regular content classrooms. But the problem is that if you really know how to speak English at the playground level, it's very different than looking at these lessons. You cannot give persuasion, disagree politely, counter-argument to a student who is not reading at that grade level that we're recommending. So the schools that are the most successful that we have worked with, they actually place the students by their reading levels, yes.
I had a different question about assessment. So we saw how the lessons align with the standards, so that means the assessments will align with the standards. And I think in a previous conversation, Joel mentioned that the assessments even help students prepare for this new computer-based LPAC. I wonder if you could talk about that, and maybe we could see that, and maybe we'd like to see something for students reading at the 6th grade level.
So let me take over the screen share, John.
Yeah.
And then Sylvia, I just need you to help me narrate. So give me 1 second. I'll take over the screen share. So right now we should be looking at my screen. My screen should be saying Link to Literacy. So we have quizzes and assessments. Sylvia, what are the difference between a quiz and assessment, please?
The quizzes are given in between because we work with 9 weeks. And then the quizzes, of course, is the one in between. The assessment is the one at the end.
And so right off the bat, I'm going to show you an example now. I'm not sure if it's going to play, if you're going to be able to hear it over for, I don't know why I use my hands so much. I do apologize. I'm just going like this. I am going to hit play here. And once again, everybody should have access to this program, or will be having, and you can test this out yourself. But is that coming across?
Yes. That is preparing the students for the listening part.
Okay, I'll fast forward it to that. And so you'll see, this is a great example. We're going to see that we're going to hit play. I don't like to say that we're preparing anything. We're not teaching the testing or anything like that. I'm not really a proponent of that, but we do mimic the styles is probably the way. And I think this is a great way of preparing your kids for that big California test that you guys have to take, that we all have to participate in. And then when when your students are done with this assessment, it will send an email directly to you teachers, and you'll be able to see a go or no go on the subject line. And then when you click on the email, it'll tell you a little bit more about, it'll break down all the questions for you.
So if you take a look at the scope and sequence for, let's take a look at level, your 8th graders will probably be doing level F. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at if they're reading at the 8th grade level.
But let's take a look at level F, just like you said, Sylvia. Go ahead, direct me.
Okay, so if you take a look at let's open up the lesson in which they are writing an essay.
Persuasive, narrative, which quarter?
Quarter 1.
I'm going to go to lesson overview. I like to look at lesson overview.
Yeah, so put plan and write, the very last one.
Yes, ma'am.
Every quarter you will have this type of planning and writing, but not until the students have actually concentrated on learning the lessons. And this is for level F. So the first thing that we do, we give them an exemplar that's the way it should look like. Then they have to read Article 1 and Article 2, just to make sure that they're writing not from their own head, but from sources. And then they start writing their essays. So this is what they will look like at the end of a quarter. For, I think this is quarter 1 for students who are reading between the 8th and 9th grade level reading levels. Mm-hmm.
Now, Sylvia, I noticed that in our lessons, we make sure that we have a lot of checking for understanding questions.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing our best to help them cut back on prep time. We're doing our best to give you back your guys' Sundays, is what I like to say. Can you just share with us, once again, we'll have another webinar on delivery when we really work the page, but can you share with us, Sylvia, why we have our checking for understanding questions and maybe how it ties into that high order thinking that we're so big about?
Well, and not only that, but if you notice, these lessons are delivered step by step. And I know that we're not talking about the teacher delivering the lesson, but the way these lessons are taught, so the teacher would say, this is what we're doing. We're writing the title and an introductory sentence. And then what the teacher will do is they will take it away and say, now you write your own. So as you are walking the students through the lesson, you're always taking it away and putting it back. So otherwise the students will be copying what the teacher is saying. So this is an 8th grade culminating assessment. But again, if your students are not reading at this grade level, I would have you put the kids, instead of on this level, they should go to the D level or E level.
Now we're at the 47-minute mark here, and I do want to go over a little bit of something from our adversary side, which is this side here. Mr. Tyler, did you have a question for us, Miss Clara? I think if there was anything that you wanted to add or ask us, we're ready to answer your questions here.
Not now. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I always do the thumbs up as well.
I'm not totally clear on how students are like inputting their answers, like if it's like they're typing somewhere or handwriting, or just since it's a new curriculum for me.
Well, this is actually the teacher presentation. The students, can you go back to the first page? The student handout. Open up the student handout. That's the student handout. I don't know if you're going to use all internet, then they're going to be able to use the computer, but most teachers, they like the students to do these student handouts, and then they give that to them.
Right. So this is a teacher-driven program. This is what they would have when you're going over the skill development side of the universe. If they're in your classroom, maybe they have a handout in front of them that they like to use. It's up to you what you would like to print and or share. We did make it a little bit easier for you, though. Some people like to use just the workbook. This is the workbook I'm using for Q1. And so every day they know that they're going to the next page to follow along with your lesson.
Right.
And then when it's time for periodic review and independent practice, we'll have that in there. That's built in as well.
So there's basically student handouts for the whole thing. Some teachers just pick the one they want, just print it out the day before, and other schools want to print out the whole packet with 100 pages in it, and each student has a workbook. Now, a lot of the checking of understanding during the lesson is whiteboards. If they're short answers, it's whiteboards or just orally to report out. Now that one, when we started doing that writing, the teacher would write an introductory sentence, then the students would write their own, and maybe just say chin it and hold up your paper and call a few students to report out what they wrote, and you provide feedback if necessary. Then you write the next little part. Your example, the students write some, and all the students write it, they report out, and you keep going on that kind of back and forth between the two of you. And maybe by the end, say, okay, now go ahead and write your last paragraph on your.
That's right. And here's the example of what it would look like, right? This is, you're teaching from this screen. That means it's full blown up. It's in your projector behind you and or your smart board, or it's in your remote teaching platform. And this is the handout that they're going to have it optional, right? Some people like just to use notebooks or free-flowing forms, however you like to use it. But I'm just saying we have provided to you a really cool PDF document that's going to be fillable. But once again, by August 1st, everything is writable on our program. So last but not least, also included with this program, we have sort of the Netflix of lesson plans, ready to teach lessons, and we call it Educary. Now, the really neat thing about this is that you're able to do searches. So I'm going to do like Arthur's point of view. If you know like the state standard that you're kind of trying to grab, like RL.21, you can type that in well. And then the second thing is most of our lessons are vertically aligned. So in other words, it's like second grade, first grade, second grade, third grade. We always have identify the main topic. Then it changes to the main idea. Well, we make sure that we follow that all the way up. And the reason why that's important for you is if you're supporting a kid who's in third grade, but you have to drop down to second grade because the activate prior knowledge was just a big giant warning, and you're like, oh man, I gotta figure something out to reach these guys. You're able to drop down by simply finding the appropriate lesson. And the other reason why I think this is kind of cool, one of the worst things about being a teacher and being sick is lesson plans. And you're able to email the lesson plan to your substitute. Once again, this is just an additional resource for you. We're definitely doing our best to give you back your Sunday. So we're providing you a paced out program for your EL designated time, number one. And then number two, when it's time to look for other resources, I think we have a pretty good place to start from. I think we're about at the end of our time here.
Well, are you planning on doing any remote teaching, or are you focusing mainly on getting back in the classroom?
That hasn't been determined yet.
Yeah.
We're planning for both. We're planning for a remote should that have to happen, right? Yeah.
Well, this is very good for remote teaching because basically you're teaching from a screen and you do a screen share and you're done. But remote teaching from a textbook or a worksheet by itself is very difficult to do. So this screen, I call it screen-based teaching, is really the easiest way to do.
Ms. Rodriguez, can you wrap us up and see if there's anything else we can do for you?
I just want to thank my team for their time, for this hour that you gave to learn more about this curriculum, and we will learn more about it as we approach the school year. Thank you for your time. Also, Joel and John and everybody here today. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.